Hello, my name's Ben.
And my name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates and welcome back to another video where it is double game week time. We are going to be showcasing our teams for this exciting double game week for both Everton and Liverpool. A small double game week, but big swings incoming. Without further ado, hit that subscribe button and let's get into Josh's team.
Okay then, so yeah, we're rolling into this double game week off the back of an 80k green arrow to just outside of the 800k ranks, where I think we're at 902k at the moment. So yeah, a good game week to be honest. Could have been a lot better if we kept that that Liverpool clean sheet. Sorry, that would have been lovely. It would have sent me into like the top 700k. But yeah, hoping they can do the damage in this double game week coming up. So we got Raya in goal, obviously off the back of a really nice, I think it was a 9-pointer in the end. Obviously the red card really helped us in terms of him getting some save points. I would not expect that in future game weeks, that's for sure. City at home though could provide a decent week where he could see a few more saves than he generally does. Clean sheet wise though, I think City have got it sort of almost clicking going forwards a little bit better now, so I wouldn't really be expecting too much this week. I am going to be keeping him though instead of going to Pickford, just because the fixtures after that almost require an Arsenal defender for the foreseeable. Obviously Trent and Konate, I think Trent speaks for himself, got the assist again last week, very close to another double digit return. Likewise Konate somehow getting an assist last week, which to be fair I feel quite fortunate getting. One, because how he got the assist, and two, because people have paid an extra 1.3 million for Van Dijk, and come away with that game with a 2-pointer, which seems quite harsh considering how little Ipswich created in that game. I think it was less than 0.5 xg, and they came away with the goal from that set piece in the 90th minute. So frustrating as an owner, but I'm certainly not going to be transferring them out and trying to get Gakpo in or anything like that. I'm quite happy going into this week with them, and I think longer term as well, they sort of suit my plan a little bit better. So that's what I've said for the longest time now, so I'll continue to stick with them. And then we've got Mikolenko, who has been around my team probably since like game week 3 or something, almost just waiting for an opportunity. I remember getting an 11-pointer off him earlier in the season when he got his only attack and return of the season so far. I'm hoping for a little bit more jam from him this week with that sort of luck. Leicester at home is a nice fixture, not expecting much from that Liverpool game. I'm just hoping that Everton can sort of keep it to sort of a relatively happy scoreline, considering I don't have any attackers as well. I'd happily take a 0-0 in that game. What's the thoughts on the defence, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really strong defence this week. Probably going to be looking stronger than most in terms of defensive assets this week. Of course, Raya, I think, can pick up some save points this week. He hasn't had too many returns recently, and he picks up a really nice sort of haul there last game week. Yeah, I do think the defence is really strong for this week. I do anticipate all the double game week games that we've got being close affairs and not too many goals in it. So I anticipate that the floor is going to be relatively high for all three of your assets that you've got there. Sort of in particular, the Liverpool boys, of course, with Everton, I think, sort of having a good chance of a clean sheet against Leicester. And then anything more against Liverpool is, of course, going to be a bonus. So, yeah, I really like it. Of course, it's a little bit of pain that you went on Konate last week, and you were going to go with a third Liverpool asset regardless last week, and it just so happens that it's the week that Cody goes absolutely mental. But there's no point really in changing that around. You've made the decision. I think if you change it around again, you're almost losing transfers sort of unnecessarily. So yeah, in your situation, I'd be very similar in terms of my thought process.
Okay then, so yeah, onto the midfield. We're playing a 5-man midfield this week. I'll start from left to right. So we've got Cole Palmer at home to West Ham this week. It's a really good fixture for him. On the vice captaincy, just because obviously if there's any sort of fixture postponements, we don't want to be headed into that sort of territory at the moment. So yeah, West Ham at home, decent fixture, as I mentioned. I think goal threat from him has obviously dropped a lot. So hoping that sort of picks itself back up, because I think he's getting into the territory of where if another premium is starting to perform, I'd be almost tempted to sort of move off him potentially. But obviously we haven't had another premium perform to the same level as him yet, so just waiting for that to come around. Obviously brought in Buemo last week, got the goal from the penalty, albeit quite lucky. Obviously hit the post and then sort of got retaken. Obviously, weren't in the bonus points because he missed a big chance at the end, which was annoying. But he's got a very nice fixture run going forwards. Tottenham at home this week is lovely. Obviously, their defence is nothing to be scared about at the moment. So, yeah, happy to have him in my team. Likewise, Anthony Gordon. It could be one of the last weeks we have him at the moment. Obviously, the fixture run for Newcastle is coming to an end. They're more than likely to go through to the EFL Cup final as well. So obviously, depending on that result, I'll be looking to maybe transfer him out next week, if not the week after. Mo Salah is on the triple captaincy. I much rather play in the triple captaincy this week than the assistant manager chip. I think that the assistant manager chip has so much upside, it'll be almost a disservice to use it on slot this week. I know you can transfer it about, but I think for me, I'm going to be looking at sort of keeping it on one manager for a 3-game period. For me, I haven't even really considered going to Arnie slot this week. So Salah will take the triple captaincy armband. As I mentioned in our Patreon, I think I'd be very happy with 2 returns over 2 games. Anything more than that, I'll be extremely happy with. I'm not looking for a huge score here. I think it's more of a case of this is the best strategy for me personally in terms of when to use my triple captaincy, because I want to use other chips in other double game weeks. Morgan Rogers rounds off the midfield. Wolves away this week. Obviously, he came off quite early for Villa in their last game. Just hoping sort of the Champions League fixture doesn't necessarily ruin him too much for the weekend's game. Obviously, it's going to be a big game for Villa. They are needing to get some 3 points in the board for that Champions League group stage. So yeah, what's the thoughts on the midfield, Ben?
Yeah, it's a strong midfield and completely sort of get what you're saying on the Cole Palmer situation. Like if someone like Haaland starts performing well, etc. I think he's probably the only premium that if he starts performing well, you'd consider moving to, which is interesting. But yeah, for now, I don't see any reason why you'd sell him. And so, a lot of managers sold him last week, and I can see rationale behind it, but I also can see that Palmer can go absolutely bonkers at any given moment in terms of FPL returns. It doesn't really matter if he's in form or not. And Mbeumo's a really nice entry point for managers this week. If it wasn't a double game week, I think a lot of managers will be moving to him this week. So it's nice that you're already sort of on board, and I think a haul is incoming for him this game week. And then if that happens, that's 0.2 in team value already right there, which is really nice. The Gordon move, I understand why you're looking at transfer him out over the next couple of game weeks. Of course, there's an element of risk with that. With the Newcastle fixture run isn't as good, but I still think attacking wise they can score against anyone. They proved that against Liverpool at home, so I don't see any reason sort of why he can't continue performing. But of course, if you're sort of not looking to free hit in 29, then that sort of produces its own decision making process there. Yeah, triple captain on Salah. I agree with the reasoning and why you're looking at doing that. I'm going to be very similar myself in the thought process there. And then, of course, Rodgers with Wolves away is not the most ideal sort of fixture in terms of the potential minutes. 60, 70 minutes is going to be sort of the expectation. But with it being against Wolves, I do think there's a high upside potential. Of course, if that goal that he scored got allowed and if, Watkins had stayed onside, then we'd be having an entirely different conversation there. So he's so consistent, he's going to continue ticking along with returns, so no reason to bench him.
Okay then, so yeah, moving on to the forward line then, we've got Chris Wood, obviously got his first blank in a little while last game week with Bournemouth turning over Forest in that game. I don't think anyone really expected it to be that crazy, but I did expect Bournemouth to do well in that game, just because how well they have been playing. I think Forest, it's going to come down to do they have the stamina to go through this whole season? I think we're going to see that in the next couple of weeks. They've got a few hard fixtures now. I'm no doubt going to be keeping Chris Wood for this game against Brighton. It's a good game from an attacking point of view. Forest don't create too many chances, and when they do, it usually falls to Chris Wood. He's on the penalties. It's one of those games where you can see Chris Wood walking out of there with 9 points, like he has done in a lot of games so far this season. So, yeah, happy to hold him for now. He's definitely, I wouldn't say he's going to become a sell because, on my strategy of not free hitting in 29, I want him for that game week 29 in terms of that Southampton fixture. I think worst case, I might bench him a couple of weeks, but even then, I probably won't be doing that with the penalty taking that he has. Isak, obviously, is Isak. He's outperformed Salah last week. If you did captain him, fair play. Fulham at home this week. They don't concede a lot of goals, but I just know that Isak, performs relatively well against Fulham, just in sort of recent history. So expecting some returns from him. In terms of transfer plans, at the moment it is most likely a roll. I could look at Iliman Ndiaye and bringing him in for João Pedro, who is first on my bench, but it would cause a benching headache, and I'm not sure who I would want to drop. It probably would be Morgan Rogers, depending on the minutes he gets in the Champions League in midweek. We're recording this on Monday night, just so you guys are aware. And obviously Iliman Ndiaye, we're not too sure on the fitness state of him, because he did have a knock towards the back end of that Brighton game at the weekend. So yeah, that's the thoughts, Ben. What's the thoughts on the front line and the potential move for Ndiaye if he's fit?
Yeah, it's a difficult decision. I do agree. Like, the fixture isn't bad for Wood this week with Brighton at home. Brighton haven't really been performing that well of late, and we sort of were expecting them to do a lot better when we thought they turned a corner, but turns out they've not really done that. Alexander Isak is in everyone's teams, right? So there's not too much to comment on with that. The interesting thought on João Pedro to Ndiaye is it's going to come down to sort of that benching headache. Like you said, it's a really difficult one to make. I'd almost sort of maybe not make the decision until like if there's fitness issues with Ndiaye, then that makes a decision for you. But if there's a good chance that he starts, then it's an entirely different decision that you've got to make. But I also would say that Ndiaye's stats is the worst out of a lot of them in terms of attacking potential. It'd almost be, like I said in the transfer targets video, a bit of a roll of the dice. If you're in a position where you can afford to bench someone, then I'd be sort of like saying yes, bring him in potentially. But in your situation, there's a lot of good fixtures on the table and a lot of players that are in form as well. So it makes it a whole lot tougher. Okay, so moving on into my team. In the last game week, we got a green arrow finally. I had 5 red arrows in a row. So a green arrow up to 292k in the world, so around 300k. It's decent, and it's a bit of recovery from the last 5 weeks, and hopefully some more gains to be made this week in terms of my team. Looking into defence, we've also got Raya in goal off the back of a nice sort of 9-pointer. More than happy to retain him for the upcoming game weeks. Of course, Timber on my bench as well. So going forwards with the Arsenal fixtures looking relatively decent, I'm going to be looking at utilising that double Arsenal defence going forwards again. In the defence, Mikolenko came in last week. I had a bit of a transfer masterclass last game week. Brought in Mikolenko, albeit I did bench him. Brought in Anthony Gordon and brought in Cody Gakpo, and the swing was huge, and that resulted in the big green arrow. So a good decision overall. Maybe sort of an element of luck involved in that, because I was very close to going Diaz and Mateta. There would have been a couple of blanks there. So not ideal at all, but happy to have Mikolenko for this double game week. In all honesty, I'm probably not going to use him much after this game week and look to sort of ship him off quite quickly. But we'll just have to sort of wait and see on that. Like, the defence overall is going to be pretty decent going forwards, because I've also got Trent Alexander-Arnold and Lewis Hall. So I could be happy with that Timber, Trent and Hall going forwards, and maybe sort of saving some transfers down the line. So yeah, that's the defence. Really sort of quite happy with that. Josh, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like it a lot. Mikolenko, as we mentioned, decent asset for this week, but probably a sell going forwards, unless you're not going to use your free hit in 29, where he does have West Ham at home in that week. So there is an element, you could keep him if you're deciding against it. Obviously, I know you're free hitting yourself. Lewis Hall is just someone who I'm constantly hoping is blanking every single week. His EO is so high. So yeah, a really good asset. The attack and returns are decent from him. Newcastle defensively last couple of weeks have been not the best, but I wouldn't be selling him at all at the moment. I know their fixtures are getting tougher as well, but yeah, he carries that attacking threat as well as the potential for clean sheets. They're getting players back from injury in defence as well, potentially Nick Pope to return quite soon too. So yeah, I think they're going to be looking pretty solid going forward, and overall it's a good and solid defence.
Okay, so moving on into midfield, and as you can see, I've also triple captain Salah. I just think it's the best opportunity this season to use a triple captain, and after this game week, there's not going to be too many more opportunities to use him, especially considering all of the other chips that we still have to utilise. So yeah, that's been on in terms of the triple captain since I was able to do it. So yeah, fairly happy with that. I think there's going to be some points returns. Whether there's going to be mega hauls like we saw towards the start of the season, I'm not too sure on that, but we'll have to just wait and see. Next up, we've got Cole Palmer, who, like Josh, I'm happy to keep for now, and let's see what he does over the next few game weeks. Of course, if anything changes drastically in the FPL landscape, then we could use him as a makeshift and a make weight for another performing asset. Ismail Assar is in there as well. Just been unlucky with sort of not getting the returns from him over recent game weeks. Manchester United away is not the best fixture, not the worst fixture, but I almost see sort of Palace getting something away from Old Trafford. Like with the way United are playing, it's very inconsistent. We don't know what United are going to turn up, and Palace have the attacking firepower to really cause Manchester United problems. Mateta on his own is going to cause some for United, so I'd be fairly happy with owning them this week. Over João Pedro has a fairly difficult fixture against Forest away, albeit I'm very much aware João Pedro does return against those top 6 teams quite regularly, so that's just one to bear in mind. Next up, we've got Anthony Gordon with Fulham at home, which I think is a really decent fixture, and I think that Newcastle fixture this week is going to be really, really good. And then Morgan Rogers as well, Wolves away. Yes, I think there's a slight minutes risk, but he is ticking along quite nicely. Josh, what's the thoughts on the midfield?
Yeah, I think overall it's obviously really solid. 4 of the 5 are the same as me. Sarr is the one different one, and I think this week you could hold him pretty comfortably. United at home this season, especially since Amorim have come in, have been awful to say the least. They lost to Forest, Bournemouth, pretty much anyone who's come there they've lost to. So yeah, I'd expect some returns potentially from Sarr that week. Another thing and a benefit of holding him this week is that he offers a really easy route to a Bournemouth midfielder next week for Southampton. So yeah, it seems like a no-brainer just to hold him and see what you get against United. If it's nothing, then fair play. If it is something, then it's a parting gift for a disappointing run, because the data and everything suggested that he was going to have a really good run going forwards. It just sort of hasn't turned out that way, unfortunately.
Okay, so moving on to the strike force. Alexander Isak in there, of course, with a really good fixture against Fulham at home. Like, potential captaincy material if we didn't have the double game week, that's for sure. And then Cody Gakpo as well, off the back of a 16-point haul. Really happy to have brought him in this week, and certainly very happy with the triple up that I've got in Liverpool at the moment. Of course, there's new on the bench, João Pedro, Timber, Harwood, Bellis, and Virginia as well. It does limit me somewhat in terms of the moves that I can make. I can't really sort of go onto an Everton triple up, which I'm thankful for, because I'm not going to go crazy with it. I've got the one free transfer, and to be honest, I'm not really looking at making any changes this week as of yet. I could be tempted by João Pedro to Ndai, but I just feel like I'd then make the Ndai back to João Pedro for when they have their good fixture against Southampton. So, yeah, I'm not too tempted on making any moves at the moment. Of course, a lot can change during the week, and we've got those Champions League fixtures on Wednesday as well, which could sort of throw up another couple of spanners in the works that maybe sort of forces my hand sort of one way or the other. But with one free transfer, I'm hoping that's all I'm going to need this game week, and sort of move from there. Josh, what's the overall thoughts on the team, and is there any potential to make any transfer moves here?
Well, if you want to chase the upside, I think the Ndai pick, if he's fit and available, then there's potential there, but I don't think it's a necessity. I think it's just sort of a nice thing to do, and especially in your scenario with only the one free transfer, I'd be more reluctant to do it and try and sort of bank them moving forwards. Between Sarr and Njai, I can see a similar score, to be honest. I don't think there's going to be that much difference between them. And like you say, with João Pedro, the good fixture for them is in Game Week 26, which you'd like to have him for against Southampton. So, yeah, for me, I'd be happy rolling unless we get any more info, like you say, with the Champions League games this week. Okay, then so that wraps up our double game week 24 team reveals. Let us know what your sort of dilemmas are going into the deadline. Are you sort of well set, triple captaincy set, or are you going assistant manager maybe on Arne Slot or David Moyes?
Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting week with a lot of swings incoming. So brace yourselves and get ready for it. FPL chip season is here. As always, if you liked the video, give it a like, comment, and subscribe. As always, I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
I'll see you guys
next time. Have a good game week, everyone.
Oh, you may rise, but you'll never make me wanna stick